to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into the Monday edition of Cody Talks NFL. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Yesterday was full of some great action on Sunday. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into my three biggest news topics coming from this past weekend. After this weekend, we kind of got a little bit more action on the news wire. I'm going to go ahead and start. I think it's about less than 2 weeks. I think it's like October 29th. I should have had that in my notes as a trade deadline that's coming up shortly. Here are some names that have been floated around over the weekend. As we already know, though, Jalen Ramsey, he's still standing for his trade. The anticipation before the weekend was that he was going to play for the Jaguars, so he ended up being inactive. So at this point, it's basically Jacksonville's got to figure out a way to get a deal done that will appeal to Shad Khan's liking. And because obviously Jalen Ramsey does not want to play for the Jaguars anymore. Next name on the list, Patrick Peterson. Teams are calling the Cardinals about him, but they are telling the teams that are calling that they're not interested in trading him. As far as how I feel about that, I think maybe after the Cardinals winning the last couple of weeks, maybe they try to hold on to him, but I'm not sure. I mean, that's might be more of a private conversation, but I think Patrick Peterson ends up staying as a Cardinal, though, by the end of the season. Leonard Williams for the Jets, the defensive tackle. Multiple teams have contacted the Jets about trading for him. Now, this is one I think I could see getting done. They already got Quinnen Williams, who they spent the second overall pick. They kind of need to acquire more draft capital for the upcoming draft. So this is something I could see getting done. I could see multiple teams trying to call him, get in some inside interior defensive lineman help. I can't really nail down a team because I think it just depends on the scheme fit and, of course, money and all that has to work out as well. Another name that came out over the weekend is O.J. Howard. Matt Miller reported he's one of the hottest rumors of getting traded among scouts. So I do take that with a grain of salt because coming from scouts, not like a GM told him. It's not like it's reported that Jason Light's shopping for him or teams are calling about him. But it does make sense that the Bucs are just going to go ahead and move on. They're not getting him really involved in the offense. He's a valuable asset that they're not using. So if they're not going to use a valuable asset, they might as well trade him and see what they can get out of him. I kind of threw out the whole idea with how bad their pass defense is. Why don't the Bucs just package O.J. Howard, one of those cornerbacks, maybe a draft pick or two, and trade him to Jacksonville because they need a tight end and they can get Jalen Ramsey. That seems like a win-win trade for both sides. And then the last name, this is not official, but it came out this morning. An AFC general manager told Mike Freeman that if the Panthers are to stick with Kyle Allen at the quarterback position, and they would look into trading Cam Newton, his trade market would be robust, and as many as 10 teams could potentially trade for him. I know people within Blitzalytics have kind of been hammering maybe Chicago would be a fit. Personally, I think the Titans are the best fit because they're more of a design for a running type of quarterback. This leads actually, I'm going to go ahead and go into the next part of my news. This leads into the Titans actually bench Marcus Mariota this past weekend. They didn't come out and say, like, after the game, like, this is going to be for sure. I haven't heard anything of it that Ryan Tannehill is the starter going forward. You would assume if you're benching Mariota, you're pretty much pulling the plug on Mariota and you're going to be moving on to Tannehill. Tannehill, he was moving the ball, but he's nothing special. He even threw a pick. He wasn't that great. So I think a team like the Titans could use Cam Newton's services. But it'll be interesting to see how the Titans do going forward. If Ryan Tannehill can at least keep them afloat, because they still got a pretty good defense. But it just seems like Marcus Mariota's era is over in Tennessee. I wonder if maybe they try to shop him around to other teams before the trade deadline as well. But it appears his time is over in Tennessee, and he'll be looking to move on in free agency. And I honestly think if he ends up going to free agency, the market will be slim for him because of his style of play. It's nothing you really want in a backup quarterback, because you want more of a backup quarterback that's going to come in and just do the job, that can fit the scheme and kind of manage the game. Moving on to my last third piece of news I took from the weekend is the Redskins. We all know they fired Jay Gruden last week, and the report came out that they are not going to start their search for their new head coach until after this season. That's just Dan Snyder and the Redskins doing Redskin things, because that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you fire your coach this early in the season for you to not look for your new head coach until after the season? Like, you should be able to take advantage of this time now. You got a head start on the other teams that are eventually going to fire head coaches, like potentially like the Falcons. You can start contacting these potential coaches, start developing that relationship, so you can try to get one of the next top tier coaches that are going to be on the market. Don't agree with this at all, but again, Redskins are going to do Redskins type of things. I'm going to go ahead and move into previewing tonight's Monday Night Football matchup between the Lions and the Packers. It is Detroit and Green Bay. No news came out for either team over the weekend. As far as injuries, the Lions are pretty banged up still, coming off their bye week. Mike Daniels is out with his foot injury. Danny Amendola is questionable with a chest injury. Quandre Diggs is questionable with a hamstring injury. Deshaun Hand's questionable with his elbow injury. TJ Hawkinson's questionable with the concussion. Ashawn Robinson is questionable with the knee injury, and Darius Slay is questionable with his hamstring injury. And then for the Packers, Devontae Adams is out with his toe injury, and then Darnell Savage is out with his foot injury. How I think this game is going to go, I think it's going to be a pretty good divisional game. I think both offenses are going to find ways to score. I think both defenses are also going to find ways to get stops or force some turnovers. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I am going to take the Packers since it is at home. I think with how banged up the Lions are, I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to find some holes within that defense, getting the ball to Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. Maybe Jimmy Graham can get going. Of course, they're going to try to hand the ball off to Aaron Jones, even though the Lions' defensive front is pretty good. So it might be a little tougher slate against this defense to get him going. And, I mean, I think with the Lions, I still want to see it from them before I completely buy in on them. If they can go into Green Bay and handle business, I'm all about the Lions this year. But other than that, I still think they're still kind of like a average team to me right now. So I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers at home. I trust the Packers. I'm going to say the Packers win. A close one, though. They're going to win like a 27-21, maybe like a 24-20 type win. And then as far as since the Thursday night game, no news came out for either the Giants or the Patriots. And the teams that were on bye weeks, no news came out for the Bills, the Colts, or the Raiders. Now, as far as the Bears, pretty big blow to their offensive line. They're likely going to place Kyle Long on IR because of his health issues. So they're going to be losing one of their best offensive linemen. They already can't really get the running game going. So that's going to be a big blow to them. And then obviously, like, that offense yet to get going, and they're going to be missing Kyle Long. There has been no update if Trubisky will be returning this week. I will obviously have that update for you on the Friday episode, so please tune in for that. But other than that, it's been a pretty quiet front on those 6 teams from the teams that played on Thursday night and the 4 teams that were on a bye week this week. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go into Sunday's games. As far as like injuries, like I always do, and little small recaps and how I feel about every team. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start off in that first game of the day yesterday. The Panthers and Bucks faced off in London. First of all, I want to say that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that was the first NFL game there. That stadium was built for NFL stadiums, and I just want to say from what I saw from pictures and what I saw from the game footage, that stadium looks amazing. I hope I can visit that stadium one day. Other than that, going into the game, Panthers handled their business. They beat the Bucks 37-26. They just did what they had to be done, and they took advantage of Jameis Winston playing like Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston threw multiple interceptions. He was dropping the ball on the ground, multiple turnovers, and you just can't turn the ball over that much and expect to win. And the report came out that morning as well that if the Panthers keep on winning, they could stick with Kyle Allen. at the quarterback position, like I kind of already talked about with the Cam Newton potential trade speculation that might be going on. Um, as far as that, though, they are entering a bye week, so this was actually the week they thought they could maybe hand over the reins, I believe, to Cam if he's healthy coming off the bye week. But I think it's at the point where if they're not going to trade Cam, I think since they're winning, I think it's best that you let Kyle Allen stay there until he either takes this team to the playoffs or he fails, and then that's the right time to get Cam Newton in. I think if you try to rush Cam Newton back for the Panthers, what that will do is if you put him in there and he kind of like sucks or he's just not playing that well, fans are going to boo. It's just going to make it just creates an awkward situation. I mean, it's going to be kind of awkward no matter how you do it, but I think it will be better for the Panthers fans if you see like Cam replace if Allen's struggling over putting Newton in there. Newton's struggling, and then maybe you put Allen in there, and then Allen handles their business. It's kind of a weird, awkward situation. We'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, you got to give credit. The Panthers did what they had to do. Their defense is really good right now. The CMC is something special, guys. Like he's definitely in the MVP conversation. Panthers are sitting at a 4-2 record, entering their bye week. They got to like where they're going, heading forward. This whole quarterback situation is something to monitor, but the Panthers, they do got enough what it takes to crack in a wild card spot. I don't know if they can take over the NFC South from the Saints, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go going forward. As far as the Bucs, man, they dropped to 2-4. That team just has holes across the board on both sides of the ball. Their offensive line, especially with how banged up it is, they can't protect or get the run game going. And that pass defense of the Bucs is just terrible. Shaquille Barrett's disappeared over the last couple of weeks, so they're not getting no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. Man, and I'm just go ahead and say I think Winston, as much as Winston showed improvement at the beginning of the season, this is a type of game where everybody, rightfully so, including myself, is like, he's not the guy. And which kind of sucks, though, is the Bucs are entering their bye week. And after the bye week, they got a matchup against the Titans. And all of us thought we would be seeing Mariota versus Winston. Now we might be seeing Winston versus Tannehill. I don't know if the Bucs pull the plug on Winston at some point, and they might just ride out the rest of the season. Ryan Griffin's nothing like no potential starter. Maybe they try to see what they got in him. Maybe he can be more of a game manager. I know Blaine Gabbert's behind him as well. So Arians has played with him at the quarterback position. So maybe he makes that switch. I'm not sure. But yeah, Bucs are sitting at 2-4 with how loaded the NFC is right now. It's going to be very difficult for them to get back in the playoff picture, but they're going to have to correct a lot of things during their bye week. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next game, Washington and Miami. As far as there are some injury news, the Redskins prior to the game did place Jordan Reed on the IR. So his season's done. His career's potentially done too with his concussions. During the game, the Dolphins saw Avery Moss leave with a concussion. Ken Webster did suffer a leg injury. And the tank for Tua, the battle of terrible teams, ended up being a somewhat pretty entertaining game at the end. I want to say the whole game was. But the Redskins barely squeezed out a win. They won 17-16. Dolphins had a chance. They scored a touchdown at the end of the game. They went for two to go ahead and try to get the win, and they ran a terrible 2-point conversion, which looked like they were trying to basically lose. But yeah, so the Redskins win. They go 1-5. I mean, they beat the Dolphins and barely beat the Dolphins. So they're just going to be a bad team going forward. I really don't have much expectations out of them. We'll see if Haskins ever sees the field at some point this year. Other than that, like they're just going to be a team that shows up every week, and they're either going to beat a really bad team like they did in the Dolphins, or they're probably going to lose to most teams this year. Dolphins did bench Josh Rosen. I should cover that during the game. He was struggling. Sucks to see, but he needs to start showing more improvement for me. He was a guy, obviously, you guys have heard me talk about, was pretty high on. I think the report, if I remember right, was Josh will still continue to start these games, but for whatever reason, they put Fitzpatrick in there at the end of the game, maybe to give the team a boost and try to lead that comeback, which he seems to always do whenever he comes off the bench. So we'll see where that goes going forward. Obviously, Dolphins are going to be Dolphins guys, and since they can't beat the Redskins, it does look like they'll probably be picking number one, probably go 0-16. But we'll see. We'll see how these Bengals do, right? They haven't won yet, and I believe that the two of them meet up in December later on in the year. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next game, Eagles and Vikings. This ended up being a great game for the Vikings, not so great game for the Eagles. Vikings beat on them 38-20. Some injury news: Jason Peters left with a knee injury for the Eagles, as well as Nigel Bradham left with an ankle injury. On the Viking side, their left tackle Riley Reef did leave with an ankle injury. Vikings handled business. Kirk Cousins had one hell of a day. Stephon Diggs had his bounce back game. I mean, as far as what I took from this, from the Vikings aspect, is that they're sitting at 4-2. Obviously, the NFC North is tough, but if this is how they can play every week, if they can do this on the road, this is a dangerous team. I mean, they got arguably one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. And yesterday that showed because both of them had a great afternoon. If Kirk Cousins can not be so timid and just deliver, they do more play action like they did, that's going to help. They got Dalvin Cook. They got Kyle Rudolph involved yesterday. So you got to like what they're seeing from their offense. And if they can get somehow and win the NFC North and play a home game or two in the playoffs, that's going to help as well because that defense is different at home. They play so much better. As far as the Eagles, man, they just need some type of offensive identity. They don't – they were able to move the ball and score points on Sunday, but it's just like you kind of really don't know what their offense is. Their pass defense is atrocious. Like they're definitely going to be a team that it's no surprise that they're a team that's involved in the Ramsey sweepstakes and probably are one of the teams calling for Patrick Peterson. They need secondary help. Their run defense is great. They contain Dalvin Cook all day, but they could not stop the passing game to save their lives. So they're sitting at a 3-3 record. Big Sunday night matchup coming against the Cowboys. It's pretty much like with how the NFC is, these are must-win games. So Vikings found a way to win. They go to 4-2. We'll see how the Vikings play going forward because, as we can see, they kind of been like a week-by-week team. But if they can be consistent with this type of play, they might be somebody to contend with in the NFC. As far as the Eagles, I still like their chances. They still got to get healthy. They're missing a lot of guys to keep that in mind. But if they can still find ways to win and just barely win the NFC East, they can still be a team to contend with in the playoffs. Now, going forward to the next game was one of the shootouts I was pretty excited about. It was a really good game. Houston ended up beating the Chiefs 31-24. With the Texans, though, it did come with a cost. Titus Howard, their rookie right tackle, who's been playing well as of late, he left with a knee injury. Bradley Roby left with a hamstring injury. On the Chiefs side, Kendall Fuller did suffer a thumb injury. As far as this, though, what I took from this game, Deshaun Watson, man, kid's balling out. He's officially entered in the MVP talk. I mean, he should have honestly probably already been in it with how he's been playing this season, but over these last 2 weeks, he's been basically unstoppable. It's the first time in his career he hasn't been sacked in 2 straight weeks, and he simply just outplayed Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs did get out to not a big early lead, but they got out to a decent sized lead at the beginning. Tyreek Hill was back. He made that Randy, he mossed somebody for a touchdown. It looked like Chiefs were going to roll over him, but then Texans just fired back, and they were pounding the ball with Carlos Hyde, getting the ball to Duke Johnson, getting the ball to DeAndre Hopkins here and there. They were pretty aggressive. They were going for it on 4th down. They understood, like, against the Chiefs, you got to score as many points as you can and take it while you can. So I got to give credit, even though I give him a lot of crap. Bill O'Brien was aggressive. He was going for the win all afternoon, and they were able to contain the Chiefs. And, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he had a good game, but it wasn't really himself. I think maybe that ankle injury is somewhat bothering him. But both teams are sitting at a 4-2 record. Texans are obviously sitting up high. They just beat the Chiefs, sitting 4-2. They're right now on top of the AFC South. Got a big matchup against the Colts on Sunday. And as far as the Chiefs, dropped 2 straight games at Arrowhead at home. They're sitting at a 4-2 record. They got a short week against the Broncos, so they got to get this thing going right before all of a sudden things get dicey for them in the AFC West. Let's just say maybe the Raiders come out and start winning. So we'll see where the Chiefs going forward. I still like them as a team. They're going to be a good team. They're probably still going to win the AFC West. Expect them to contend in the AFC playoff picture. But now after this win, and this is something myself, you got to take Texans serious because they handle their business in KC, and Deshaun Watson is playing at an MVP type level right now. And then moving on to the next game, the Saints beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville 13-6. Nothing really came out on the Saints side. With the Jaguars, they kind of got a little banged up in this game. Cody Davis suffered a hamstring injury. Marquise Lee left with a foot injury, and Jeff Swaim left with a concussion injury. Saints are now sitting at a 5-1 record, looking at as one of the best teams in the NFC. We're going to get Drew Brees back here in the coming weeks. Defense is playing great. You just got to like what you're seeing from the Saints, and I have nothing bad to say about them. And you got to keep in mind, Alvin Kamara he's a little banged up with an ankle injury, so they got Murray more involved yesterday. So they're gelling right now on both sides of the ball, and it might not have been the most impressive victory for New Orleans on Sunday, but they found a way to get the job done. And with Jacksonville, they're sitting at 2-4. Gardner Minshew had that. I wouldn't say a letdown game, but he had his come down to earth game basically, which it was going to happen eventually. The Saints were able to get after him, force him into forcing turnovers. So now they're sitting at a 2-4 record. I think the Ramsey stuff's starting to linger in. You can only have that around so often before it affects the whole team. And they're sitting at 2-4. They're going to be a team that's got the defense. Gardner Minshew can move the ball. They're going to be a team that can maybe upset some teams here and there throughout the season. But I think they're just going to be a team that can get to maybe like a 5-11, 6-10 record by the end of the year. And it'll be interesting to see if Gardner Minshew can bounce back from this game. Otherwise, if he doesn't bounce back, it's just a matter of time before Nick Foles takes his job back. I believe it's week 11 when he can return. Moving on to the next game. This game was pretty entertaining. The Seahawks did beat the Browns 32-28. No news or injuries from the Browns front, but with the Seahawks, a couple things with them. Will Dissly, their tight end that emerged this season, he tore his Achilles. Sucks for him, man, because like anytime that guy's on the field, him and Russell Wilson has this like connection, and they're able to like produce a lot. But now he's the second year in a row he's suffered a season-ending type injury. Big news though with the Seahawks is now that sitting at their 5-1 record, they're getting their star defensive tackle back, Jaron Reed. So that's going to help their defense against the rush and obviously the pass. They need more of an inside pass rush, which will combine well with Jadeveon Clowney. As far as this game though, this is how it kind of went how I thought it was going to go, especially with the two offensive linemen end up missing the game with the Seahawks. Russell Wilson played great, playing at his MVP type level. They got Carson going throughout the day as well. On the Brown side, it was just like a hit-miss day for them. Like they had some moments where the offense was able to move down the field. OBJ was making crazy catches and everything. Then they had some drives where it's like, what are you doing? Baker Mayfield throwing some errant interceptions. They're still just a team that I'm struggling to figure out. But they are 2-4 right now. They're entering their bye week. This is going to be the week that's going to be huge for them because they need to work on things. They need to figure out some things on that team, figure out who they are as a defense, and figure out who they are as an offense. They need to come out of this bye week running. Otherwise, this season's going to be a bust because everybody obviously – a lot of people thought they were Super Bowl. I was thinking more of a playoff team than let's talk about Super Bowl later on. But they still have a time to correct things. I'm not – well, it is the next game I'm talking about, but the Ravens are on top of the AFC North at a 4-2 record, but I'm not fully buying into the Ravens. So I still think the Browns have a chance to maybe storm back in the second half of their schedule and win the AFC North. I'm not going to count out the Browns yet, but it's almost there, and I believe they got the Patriots after their bye week. But the Seahawks, let me go back to them, give them all their credit, man. They're sitting 5-1. They're handling their business. They're winning on the road. They win at home. They're one of the top teams in the NFC right now. And I mean, you just gotta like what they're going forward. I mean, if Russell Wilson's going to play at an MVP type level and not turn the ball over, they're going to be a hard team to beat on any given week. Love the Seahawks going forward. And then moving on to my next game, Cincinnati went out to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Ravens won, but barely. I thought the Ravens were going to honestly beat up on them, but they barely squeaked out a win, 23-17. No news or injuries for Baltimore. With the Bengals, Drake Kirkpatrick did leave with a knee injury, and John Miller left with a groin injury for the Bengals. This is just a game I thought the Ravens were going to handle business. They were up on them for most of the game, and then the Bengals tried to storm back late, which they kind of been their story this whole season. But Bengals fall to an 0-6 record. As far as how I feel about the Bengals, they're just going to be a team that maybe can beat some bad teams, but they're going to lose the majority of their games. It's going to be a long season. I still wouldn't be surprised they try to trade some people and try to gain some draft capital, but who knows if they even want to do that. They already said, like I talked about in the Friday episode, that they don't want to trade AJ Green, but they're 0-6. They just happen to play a division opponent pretty tough, which is something I should have expected, even if a team is terrible like the Bengals are. Divisional games are kind of can be a toss-up sometimes on how it will turn out. As far as the Ravens, kind of already gave my feelings away on them. They're 4-2, but I still feel like they're a questionable 4-2 team. But they're a team that I think are going to beat the bad teams, can have the capability of beating good teams, but will struggle to beat those good teams most of the time. But this is the AFC North is the Ravens division. Let me make that clear. Right now, it is their division. They're 4-2. The nearest teams are the Browns and Steelers. They're sitting at a 2-4 record, so they got a 2-game lead on the division. So as long as they win games, they're going to win. I just sound like Trent Dilfer, Madden. As long as they win games, they're going to win their division. But yeah, so I got the Ravens. So I like the Ravens are the AFC North lead, but I do think they need to win every game they can, because I do think the Browns have the capability of flipping the script and going on a run and trying to make a run for the AFC North. Then going on to the afternoon games, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the Rams and the 49ers. Man, this game. I don't know what I took from this game. The 49ers handled their business 20-7. No news for the 49ers with the Rams. Joe Noteboom left with a knee injury, and John Johnson left with a shoulder injury. Rams got out, the Rams looked like they were ready to play and handle their business. And then, they just fell flat in their face after they scored that opening touchdown. The 49ers defense is legit. I don't know how many times I saw them stop the Rams on a fourth down opportunity to get a first. They just kept on getting after Goff. I don't know if Goff is hurt or something, but he does not look normal. He was missing easy throws. That at one point when they had a chance in the fourth quarter to attempt to make a comeback, he had Gerald Everett on a fourth down play wide open. And maybe I'm really dissatisfied with that throw because I played Gerald Everett in a big money fantasy league, but he threw that ball into the dirt basically. And if he would have all he had to do was loft the ball in the air easily, and Gerald Everett could have ran underneath it and walked right into the end zone. So I don't know. Something's up with Jared Goff. Something's up with that whole Rams team. It just seems like they're going through that Super Bowl hangover. Stats show that most teams, when they lose the Super Bowl, typically struggle the following year. So it's just happening to the Rams. I didn't expect it to, but they are going against the bounce back, the get right team, as Steve Smith said yesterday, in the Falcons this next week. So I still think the Rams have the talent to turn this around and make a push for the NFC wild card position right now. It's going to be difficult to win the NFC West because they already dropped a game to the Seahawks and the Niners, but I still think they have the talent to make a push for the NFC wild card. We'll see, though. I can't say that for sure, though, because that offense and defense is shaky. But let me go back to the Niners. Give them credit, man. They're winning. I'm just so surprised they were able to just get the running game going without their starting tackles or their fullback, and they're still able to get the job done. I like the 49ers as a team. I'm not going to crown them quite yet. I know we within Blitzalytics we had a pretty heavy debate about this yesterday, but with the 49ers, I guess I'm just still waiting on that full complete game from Jimmy Garoppolo. He did, have a fumble yesterday. He wasn't the perfect quarterback. I'm just waiting to see that full game from him, and also I want to see him win a game for the Niners before I buy into him. I want to see that running game stuffed. Maybe the defense gives up some touchdowns, and they have to depend on Jimmy G to lead them on a comeback through the air. I want to see that game before I say the Niners are the elite class in the NFC, but they are one of the best. I would say it's the 49ers, um, and Saints sit on top of the NFC right now. And then there's the next tier of teams. Moving on to the next game, Atlanta Falcons lost a heartbreak to the Cardinals. Cardinals got up to a big lead. Falcons stormed back, tied it up. Cardinals regained the lead. Falcons get the touchdown to tie it up again, to potentially force overtime, and Matt Bryant missed a PAT. Just not the Falcons season. They lose 34-33. They drop to 1-5. The Falcons are there's going to be a team that's got the offense to put up points. Their defense is going to give up a lot of points. They're going to win maybe some games against bad teams. They might even surprise some good teams because their offense is good enough to move the ball through the air. But it's just a team that you can't trust going forward. It just seems like it's a matter of time before Dan Quinn's era in Atlanta is over. I still think it's going to either be at the end of the season or maybe in December. I don't expect him to get fired anytime shortly. But Falcons are sitting at a 1-5 record, and basically, they're just going to have to try to upset some teams here and there. It's basically it's going to be a losing season for Atlanta. Sorry, Falcons fans. And as far as the Cardinals, though, sitting at 2-3-1, news on them. Patrick Peterson now is set to return on the suspension, as I talked about earlier in the trade section at the beginning of the show. So that's going to be a major boost for their defense. I kind of like how their offense is starting to gel. Kyler Murray's looked pretty good over the last couple weeks. They got a couple wins. That defense still needs a lot of work, but obviously Patrick Peterson will be a major boost for them. I don't know. The Cardinals seem like now that their offense is gelling, if they can get some better defensive play out of their defense, they could be a team that can upset some teams throughout the year. They're going to be a team that can beat other bad teams. So I still think it's going to be a losing team, but I wouldn't surprise if they get maybe 3 or 4 other wins this season. And then moving on to the next game, the Cowboys face the Jets. An upset happened out in New York. Cowboys did lose 24-22. Amari Cooper suffered a thigh bruise at the beginning of the game, so he was immediately out. Sam Darnold, in his first action back from mono, lit it up. I didn't know you can get mono and come back as a better football player. That's news to me. He lit him up. Robbie Anderson on that 92-yard or whatever touchdown throw. That was beautiful. Dak struggled throughout the day. Zeke, where's Zeke been this season, right? Feels like he hasn't really done much. He's been relatively quiet. Cowboys had a chance to tie it up at the end, but they missed a 2-point conversion. And Cowboys are now sitting at a 3-3 record. As I mentioned when I talked about the Eagles, they have a crucial match against the Eagles on Sunday night. Actually kind of feels like whatever team loses that game, it's going to be difficult for them to get back from it. But yeah, so Cowboys 3-3. Season's already seems like it's on the line this early in the season, which I won't say if they lose it, they can't. But that's something I'll talk about on the Friday episode. But Cowboys sitting at 3-3, and a lot of question marks surrounding that team now after that great start. Now we're wondering who the Cowboys are. We'll see how they can move going forward. We'll see if Amari Cooper will be missing any time with his injury. And obviously Dak is just not the same Dak without Amari Cooper or Tyron Smith on the line. So if those guys are going to be missing more time going forward, this could end up being a long season for the Cowboys. As far as the Jets, they're 1-4. They just got to hope to just continue playing like that. I'm not saying they're going to storm out of their 1-4 record, but I think they're definitely got if Sam Darnold can play like that every week with their offensive weapons with Le'Veon Bell and their wide receivers that they got enough juice on that offense that they can put up points. Now that defense still does need some work. They need CJ Mosley back to be a better defense, but you got to like what you saw from the Jets against the Cowboys. But let's just see if they could do it again next week. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to completely buy into the Jets, but if they can continue playing like that, then they could definitely be a team that should be able to handle bad teams, can upset teams like the Cowboys, but still probably be more of a losing season. Maybe they can get to like a 5-11, 6-10, maybe even like a 7-9 record and have a lot of promise going forward to their next season. And then moving on to the final afternoon game, the Titans face against the Broncos. Broncos handle business 16-0. I already touched upon Marcus Mariota getting benched. As far as injuries, Jayon Brown for the Titans, he did leave with a groin injury. With the Broncos, Emmanuel Sanders did leave that game with a knee injury, but the report came out last night. They're already optimistic that he should be ready for their Thursday night game against the Chiefs. What I took from this, Broncos just beat a really bad team. I mean, not really bad team. Broncos just beat a bad offense in the Titans, because I do like the Titans defense, but Broncos just handled business at home. They're sitting at a 2-4 record. They're going to be a team that has the capability of beating some good teams, upsetting good teams, just because they got some talented players on the offense. The defense is all right. They listen. This Bradley Chubb will still have an effect on their season. Sorry, guys, losing my voice here on you. And then as far as the Titans sitting at a 2-4 record, we'll see if they stick with Ryan Tannehill. Even if they stick with Ryan Tannehill, that still doesn't excite me for their offense. Both these teams, I view both the teams as the same, man. They're teams that are going to be teams that can have the capability of upsetting. They're teams that should handle their business against bad teams. Both teams are like a 5-11 to 7-9 type of team. And then I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the Sunday night game. This game did not go how I thought it was. I thought the Chargers would handle business, but the Steelers did win. They won 24-17. Even though the Steelers did win, they did lose a couple guys. Stephen Tuitt did leave with a pectoral injury. I know it didn't sound too great. I know James Conner at some point hurt his quad, and Joe Hayden suffered a groin injury. No news or injuries with the Chargers. Both teams are now sitting at a 2-4 record. Steelers, they got a pretty good defense. That's something I've been giving them praise for this season. But obviously the injury to Stephen Tuitt is going to really hurt their defensive front. Devlin Hodges, he didn't do much. He really necessarily won the game. It was more of their defense making plays and putting their offense in winning situations. Connor had a good night prior to him getting hurt in his quad. Benny Snell came in, was able to help out the team, gets on the ground. Chargers, man, that team's just too banged up. Their injuries have completely taken over the team. Philip Rivers is also having a down year. He doesn't look like himself. That offense cannot gel whatsoever, and unfortunately, it just sucks because that team had the offensive playmaker and the defensive playmakers prior to all these injuries to go on a Super Bowl run, and now it looks like they're going to be like a 5-11, 6-11, 7-9, one of those type of teams. They're going to have to be a team that just gets through the season, get everybody back healthy for next season, but they're also going to need to kind of blow some things up. Maybe look to move some people to fill out some other positions. That line needs some help. This is going to be a team that needs to make a little bit of changes this offseason if they want to maybe make for one more push to try to get Rivers to the Super Bowl. With the Steelers, they're sitting at a 2-4 record. Technically, they're tied for the second place in the AFC North. I'm sure Mason Rudolph will take over the quarterback job once he gets back from his concussion. But I mean, look at that. I mean, they even though they won, they still saw some guys get banged up. And I mean, I think they're a team that under Tomlin's leadership and with how good that defense is, they can beat teams that are like banged up like the Chargers. They should be able to beat bad teams. They have the capability of maybe upsetting teams with a good game plan. But I don't think they're going to. I don't know. I just can't buy into them storming back and trying to win the AFC North. But who knows? We've seen crazier things in the NFL. And then, going ahead and give my Thursday night predictions. Kansas City is traveling to Denver to face the Broncos on a short week. As far as how this game's going to go, I kind of learned my lesson with the Ravens and Bengals game, where divisional games are a lot closer. So as much as I want to say like KC is coming off 2 losses, KC's a way better team than the Broncos. They should just go in there and beat up on them, and I would not be surprised if that happens. But I think the game will be somewhat closer. Denver's been playing games tough. Even in their 4 losses, they had a couple games that came down to the wire where if the ball would have went their way, they could be sitting at a 4-4 record, or not 4-4 record right now. I'm sorry, a 3-3 record right now, maybe even like a 4-2 record. So Denver is quietly better. I don't know. They're a better team than what most people think, I believe. How I think this is going to go, I think the Chiefs should handle their business. It's a get right type of game for the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs end up winning. It'll be closer than what I can see it being a blowout for the Chiefs too, but I think it'll be closer because it's a divisional matchup, like a 20. I think they win by touchdown though, like a 28-21 type win for the Chiefs. And then moving on to my producer question. Question is Jason Garrett on the hot seat after this 3-game stretch? And if so, I think he meant this? Does my Tony Romo? Rob made a funny joke, guys, so you get to hear it. To coach the Cowboys call a real possibility? Maybe. I could see that being done. Possibly. I do think he's on the hot seat. I mean, I think he was on the hot seat entering the year. So, yeah, he's definitely on the hot seat. If they continue to lose, I don't know if anybody saw this video clip from the game, but it was like the defense was coming to the sidelines after a play, and Jason Garrett stuck both of his hands out for high fives, and not one single player slapped his hands. They just kind of walked by him and ran by him. To me, that's a telling sign, right? It tells me the players might no longer respect you as a coach, might not take in what you have to say. So I've always been on it that Jason Garrett's an average coach, and most coaches that has his record and has had his career in other locations probably would have been fired by now. I mean, I know Jerry Jones has been loyal to him, but if they don't make the playoffs, I think Garrett's gone. As far as Tony Romo as a coach, I'm not sure, man. That guy likes to golf. I think, honestly, after his contract, I believe, if I remember right, his contract is up with CBS after this year, and I think ESPN is going to throw him a bunch of money to come to Monday Night Football. It's going to be a bidding war for his services after this year, so I think the money is going to outweigh the money as a head coach and the responsibility and stress and all that. I think Tony Romo seems like more of a laid-back type of guy that wouldn't want to be in a head coaching situation. So I could see it happening, but I think Tony Romo just stays as a broadcaster. I think if they do fire Garrett, he's going to unload the Brink truck for Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma. It's already been speculative that Lincoln Riley would be a potential target for Jerry Jones. And it's not only that's been speculative, it's also kind of, from what I understand, it's been known that if Lincoln Riley ever makes that jump from college to the pros, it would only be for the Cowboys. So it kind of just seems like that's destined to happen. And then other than that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to my Monday episode. If you tune into all my episodes, thank you so much. I hope you guys can continue to be a loyal listener. If you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, please, if you got my number, text me. If you got me on Twitter, DM me. My Twitter handle is @Cody Talks NFL. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube and you ever want to listen to the audio version, this does also go up on the Blitzalytics podcast network. We're on all major platforms, so please look out for that. We got the Blitz breakdown, the pick six, and of course my fantasy football hot seat that comes out every Wednesday. Me and my co-host Rob, we talk about everything fantasy football. And then lastly, if you got some money to give, guys, please go check out the All Heart Charity League presented by Blitzalytics.com. 10 different teams, 10 different charities, all for great causes. As much as it helps those guys with their waiver wire positioning, it's going to help out a great cause. So if you got anything to give, go help them out. And then other than that, I just want to thank you guys once again for tuning in, and Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.